Chairman, it's Rowena here. We've just had confirmation that the live stream is now on.
Thank you very much, Rowena. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this virtual meeting of Central Sub-Area Committee. Before consideration of today's business, I'll outline the protocols for the meeting. Today's meeting is being live streamed to the public via Microsoft Teams and is also being recorded. When members are speaking, they may choose to use their video. If the Council's live stream fails during the meeting and we cannot share the proceedings, I will adjourn the meeting so that access can be restored. If the issue can't be resolved, I will halt the meeting and the remaining business will be concluded at a future date. If a member experiences a technical issue, I will adjourn for a short period to try to re-establish their connection. As I call members to speak, I will remind you to switch on your microphone. If for some reason you cannot be heard, the Democratic officer will advise you. The vote will be taken verbally by roll call and the result announced by the Democratic Services Officer. Members must be present for the duration of the discussion on each planning application in order to be able to vote. We have public speakers at the meeting today and they'll be joining the meeting by telephone. Where a member has declared a non-registerable interest, a disclosable pecuniary interest, or an interest by virtue of any trade union membership in a matter, they must leave the virtual meeting. Their departure will be confirmed and they will be invited to rejoin the meeting at the appropriate time. So to confirm the procedure for today's meeting is that members of the committee who wish to speak on an item should indicate by using the X in the chat box. Before we start today's business, I will ask the Democratic Services Officer, please, to ask committee members to confirm their present and state their electoral division.
Thank you, Chairman. I will now call your name. Please can you confirm your name and electoral division member? Councillor Alvey.
So, Martin Alvey, Cornwall Councillor for Field and Plain Place Division.
Thank you, Councillor Batters.
Good morning, Chris Batters, member for Lenivett Blisland Ward.
Thank you, Councillor Brown.
Good morning, Malcolm Brown, St Austell, Bethel.
Councillor Bull.
Good morning, everyone. Jackie Bull, St Austell, Poltaire.
Thank you, Councillor Dyer.
Yeah, John Dyer, Kenwyn, Chasewater and Baldew.
Thank you, Councillor Greenslade.
Good morning all, Fred Greenslade, St Denis and Nanpin Division.
Thank you, Councillor Jewell.
Councillor Jewell, Falmouth Boslowick Ward.
Thank you, Councillor Kenny.
Good morning everyone, Joanna Kenny, Newquay Pentire.
Thank you, Councillor May.
Councillor May, Penryn West Division and Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Councillor Mould.
Good morning, Carol Mould, Cornwall Councillor for St Member and St Endelion.
Thank you, Councillor Tudor.
Good morning, Councillor Tudor, Councillor for Three Milestone and Glower.
Thank you, Councillor Williams.
Good morning, everyone. Councillor Williams for Mabe, St Gluvius and Parnawall parishes.
Thank you very much. I can confirm that the following officers are also present. Matthew Stevenson, Development Management Group Leader, Tim Marsh, Principal Development Officer, Jeremy Content, Principal Development Officer, Ellis Crompton Brown, Senior Development Officer, Chantel McLennan, Principal Development Officer, Nick Cooper, Tree Officer, Hugh Gibbon from Highways, Nikki Mannell, Affordable Housing Officer, Loretta Commons, Legal Officer, myself, Emma Code, Democratic Officer, and meeting producer today is Rowena Brebner. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. So we move swiftly on to the agenda. Agenda item 1, apologies, please, Emma.
Thank you, Chairman. I can confirm that I have apologies today from councillors John Martin and John Thomas, and Councillor Malcolm Brown has notified us that he won't be in attendance for all of the meeting.
And Councillor Batters, I believe, may have to leave early. So, thank you. Agenda item 2, are there any declaration of interest? None indicated, thank you. So we go on to agenda item 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 30th of November, which you've all had sight of. Are there any comments on accuracy, please? And if not, can I have a proposer?
I'd like to move, Chairman, please.
Thank you very much. Moved by Councillor Greenslade. Is that Councillor Alvey?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Alvey. So the minutes are proposed as a true record by Councillor Greenslade, seconded by Councillor Alvey. We'll now go to the vote. Do you wish to take this by roll call, Emma?
Chairman, I will do. I'll do an alphabetical roll call. Please could you indicate whether you're for, against or abstaining? Councillor Alvey.
For.
Councillor Batters.
For.
Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Bull.
For.
Councillor Dyer.
For.
Councillor Greenslade.
For.
Councillor Jewell.
For.
Councillor Kenny.
For.
Councillor May.
For.
Councillor Mould.
For.
Councillor Tudor.
For.
Councillor Williams.
For.
Thank you, Chairman. I can confirm that has been confirmed as an accurate record. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We move on then to agenda item 4 and applications for consideration. 4.1, PA 1910894, Mrs. R. Bartow, Treslovene, Perrencombe, Perrenporth, proposed construction of 2 detached infill dwellings, formation of 2 new vehicle access points onto Perrencombe and alterations to existing vehicle access. The case officer is Tim Marsh. So if you'd like to present, please, Tim.
Thank you, Chairman. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes. Thank you.
And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Good. Thank you, Chairman. The key issues with this case are policy, principally those relating to trees, ecology, drainage and design, archaeology, residential amenity, access and parking, flood risk and contamination. This is the proposed site here, which is approximately 500 metres to the southwest of the centre of Perrenporth, and you can see it outlined in red. I will point out in this photograph that the area tree preservation order that's referred to in the report does cover this area here, and there are a number of properties that were within the area at the time it was designated. So it wouldn't be introducing development within an area of TPO where there isn't any existing. And you can see here from these aerial photographs the extent of tree cover on the site. This is the plan showing the extent of the high-risk flood zone, which is identified in the orangey colour, which you can see runs along the northwestern boundary of the site, and the proposed development does not take place on the high-risk flood zone. This is a plan showing the existing site survey with the extent of trees proposed for removal outlined in a reddy colour. So we've got Treslovene here, which is the neighbouring property, the Perrencombe Lane, and then the properties on the eastern side of the site. This is the site plan showing the roof plan, but also showing the proposed new planting. Sessile oaks are proposed. These are predominantly a sycamore woodland.
Can you stop just a minute, Tim? Someone's microphone is on. There's noise in the background. So, thank you. Sorry, Tim.
That's okay. So this is the site plan, and you can see with the roofs, you've got solar PVs on the roofs of these properties, as well as rooftop gardens. And this plan also shows the 3 access points. You've got 2 accesses into plot 1, down the lane here running between Treslovene and the site, accessing from what is the southern end, and then you've also got access here coming off Perrencombe Lane, and then there's a single point of access for plot 2 as well. These are the proposed construction phases, because obviously it is a constrained site as set out in my report, not only in terms of trees but also in terms of the drainage and the stream and the topography. So the proposal is first of all to clear the area for trees where the development is going to be constructed, then a creation of site access, and then the piling for the foundations. This is the revised Treslovene planting plan. So you saw on the previous slide that I showed the sort of purple coloured areas. These are shown here in red. So these are the new sessile oak trees, and then you've got the existing trees marked here with the black dots and the reference number. So plot 1 is located on the southern end of the plot. So the northwest elevation, this is the elevation facing towards the stream. And then you've got the elevation here, the northeast, that's Perencombe Lane here, with the access that I referred to. You can see quite clearly on this slide as well the lattice steel structure which is proposed in order to keep the development above the existing ground level, which is beneficial both in terms of drainage and ecology. It is a contemporary bespoke form of design, and the proposed materials are considered to reflect its setting. You've got the burnt larch on the lower stories and then oxidised steel on the top. So this is the other two elevations for plot 1, so southeast elevation with the access here on the lower part, and then again looking from the opposite direction you've got Perencombe Lane here, and you can see how the development sets down towards the stream at this lower towards the left here. This is plot 2, so this is the elevation from the stream looking towards the site. Again, you can see very similar style with the steel lattice structure and the burnt larch and the oxidised steel. And again, the second image, which is from the north east, shows Perencombe Lane with this parking area constructed again on this steel lattice structure. And the remaining two elevations for plot 2, so southeast elevation, you can see quite clearly here with the access along. So this dotted line is the existing line of Perencombe Lane. So there's the whole story below the existing level of the lane, again shown quite clearly from this lower cross section. And a couple of projected street views that have been provided, so you can see how they would sit within the existing, between the remaining trees and proposed new trees that I showed you, and with the driveways, which would be granite steps set back from the lane. This is the aerial view of the proposed development, again showing the trees, which are the centre, I think, of the discussions today, bearing in mind this is the second time the application has been considered by the committee, and we do have the tree officer here to deal with any questions. So these are the proposed floor plans. The lower ground is predominantly bedrooms, and then you've got two main living areas on the upper stories, and with the car parking to plot 1 going from 2 levels. And this is similar for the proposed plans for plot 2, similar arrangement. These are the existing photographs of the site. So you've got the stream running along the boundary here, the northwestern boundary, and then the land rises up, as I said, towards the lane, and then rotating 90 degrees, that's looking up from a similar point towards Perencombe Lane. And these are the existing properties on the southern side of the lane. And then that's further up the lane, looking back towards the site on the right. Again, you can see how it falls away in the extent of tree cover, and the archaeological remains referred to in the report are in here. It's from former mineral processing. And then a couple of Google images, street view. This is from the southern end of the lane, approaching the site. You can see my mouse here, that's the site is in here. So that's to give you an idea of the existing sort of style of development on that southern side. And then this is further up the lane, that's Treslow Bean on the left, and then those houses that I referred to earlier on that you could see from looking up from the lane here. So that's the site. And then this is a photograph further down the lane, not much further. It's the next property along on the eastern side of the lane. You can see it's a new contemporary style dwelling elevated above the lane. So in terms of the balance of consideration, the parish council and third parties object owing to the bulk massing of design, and which they consider to be out of character. Development is considered to be infill under Cornwall Local Plan Policy 3, and although it is within an area tree preservation order, partly in a high risk flood zone and on a site of archaeological interest, the proposals have been designed to take account of these constraints. There's no defining or prevailing an architectural style in the immediate locality. There will be a net gain in biodiversity and no harm to protected species as confirmed by the council's ecologists. There will be less than substantial harm to the non-designated archaeological heritage remains. The proposals are constructed on an open framework, as I described, in order to account for flooding and prevent provide flood resilience to properties located further downstream. The access has been revised to provide satisfactory visibility displays so that all 3 points of access are now acceptable to the highway officer. The consultee responses serve to demonstrate compliance with all other relevant policies, including those for ecology, historic environment, flood risk and access. Although the tree officer objects, and whilst the trees and structures would be in competition for space, it is considered that the proposed roof gardens are considered to take sufficient account of this and provide a satisfactory solution. I think that's the crux of the consideration really with this application at this time. The dwellings are sited and the windows positioned and orientated such that any potential impacts on the residential amenities of neighbouring properties would be acceptable. The application is recommended for conditional approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. We don't have any residents speaking in objection, but we do have Councillor Francis White, hopefully, of Perranzabuloe Parish Council, who is speaking in objection. Can you hear me? Are you with us, Councillor White?
If you can hear.
Hello?
Chairman, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Councillor White. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Right. Good. Then you have 3 minutes to state your case and you'll be told when 30 seconds remain. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman, staff and councillors. I'm only here to remind you all that Perranzabuloe Parish Council refused this application back in 2019, and the same view was stated at your meeting from the 15th of June 2020. Our view was the same. I have noted the new tree planting in the TPO area, but to reiterate, we, the Parish Council, object on the basis that the bulk, massing, and particularly the design of the two properties, which are out of character with the rest of the village. I'm sorry Councillor Callum couldn't attend due to illness this morning. He was going to support Perranzabuloe Parish Council's decision. I'm afraid that is all I have to say, and compliments of the season to you all.
Compliments of the season to you, thank you as well, Councillor White. Are there any questions? Thank you. Could you just stay there in case there are any questions for a moment?
Okay, yes.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Councillor White, please? Councillor Kenny.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Councillor White. Just a bit of history on the site. Has it always been private property?
Yes, as far as I know.
It was, and it was sort of part of an estate or part of someone's garden, or what?
I believe it was part of someone's garden. I know that's quite a space for somebody's garden, but there were a lot of properties down there with huge gardens leading down to the stream. And of course, as you already know, it's in the TPO area, so it has been left to go a little bit awry.
Are there any other questions for Councillor White? I see nothing indicated. Can you confirm, please, Vice Chairman?
Yes, I can confirm, Chairman.
Right. Then thank you for joining us, Councillor White.
Thank you. I'll stay with you. I'll mute myself and I'll await your decision. Thank you.
Thank you. We move on to Mr. Charles Green, who is the agent speaking in support of the application. Are you there with us, Mr. Green? Hello.
Chairman, Rowena Bredner, meeting producer. If Mr. Green would like to press *6 to unmute his telephone, then that should be fine.
Hello, Mr. Green, can you hear us?
He's unmuted, Chairman.
Hello, Mr. Green, are you with us?
I am with you, Chair, yes.
Lovely, thank you. Mr. Green, you have 3 minutes to state your case and you'll be told when 30 seconds remain.
Thank you, Chair. In his independent report, Oliver Bennett, the former council tree officer, concluded that the site layout as proposed would preserve existing trees of moderate quality on site, which are covered by the TPO. The development of two dwellings would require the loss of low quality trees and scrub, some of which at least might not qualify for protection within the area TPO. The National Forest Inventory UK government definition of woodland is a minimum area of 0.5 hectares under stands of trees. The application site at 0.35 hectares is therefore by definition and specific reference to the UK government definition a group of trees not woodland. The LPA has had 30 years to change the designation from area TPO to woodland. It has not done so. This indicates it was neither a woodland nor so distinct or valuable to be separated out from the rest of the TPO at the time. Plant diversity, photographically evidenced on site by Cornwall Council Tree Officer Nick Cooper, is precisely what this application has taken great lengths through careful design to protect. Fungi, lichen and general biodiversity will be allowed to continue to colonise the valley floor around and beneath the proposed dwellings by virtue of their stilted foundation design. The fact that the private amenity spaces will be provided on flat roof enclosures at tree canopy level will ensure that the valley floor will remain relatively undisturbed for natural evolution. The site records a low visual sensitivity and low landscape value. The LCA concluded that the site has a high landscape capacity to accommodate the proposed development, effects of which can be further enhanced through mitigation measures, including those suggested by the tree officer, which can be addressed via planning condition. The supporting design and access statement explains how the design is landscape constraint-led, seeking to retain as many of the existing trees as possible, and possibly all of the identifiable trees that might be protected under the current area TPO, to avoid the floodplain and to minimise potential impacts on existing wildlife. The approach being that the dwellings have been designed to blend into the existing retained heavily treed setting, elevated above the ground and natural habitat, will be able to reclaim and flourish within the valley floor below the dwellings following construction. The planning case officer, Tim Marsh, has maintained his support for this application in face of persistent objection from the tree officer, who at times has provided negative comments on aspects of the
30 seconds.
that fall outside of the scope of his professional capacity. There is no significant public outcry against this development, with only 12 public comments posted. Per Zabula Parish Council objection was not unanimous. A total of 4 votes, 2 abstentions and 2 against, is based purely on design grounds. But the balance of evidence supports this application. The applicants respectfully ask for your support at this committee also. And to clarify one point, the land is in family ownership.
3 minutes, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Green. Perhaps you would be kind enough just to stay there in case there are any questions. And I see Councillor Alvey, you've already indicated. Would you like to unmute, please?
Thanks, Chairman. Just a quick one. Do you agree that the council's tree officers point that future owners of these properties, indeed, that as we look to the next decade or so, may take a totally different view to protecting the trees within the site than perhaps the initial purchasers may, and that will create pressure on the trees within the site because they are in such close proximity to the buildings. And that is the point made by the council's tree officer. Do you accept that point?
The trees have been repositioned a minimum of 5 metres away from the dwellings, as recommended by the county tree officer. The trees will remain protected. They will remain protected under tree preservation orders, so any impacts or alterations will need to be approved by planning.
Just to make the point, you can't reposition a tree. You can cut it down, plant another one, but you can't reposition a tree.
All the trees are positioned a minimum of 5 metres from the dwellings, as recommended by the county tree officer.
The point I'm making is you said that the trees will be repositioned. You can't reposition.
New trees will be, the trees have been repositioned, the new planting has been repositioned within our scheme, but all trees will be 5 metres away from the dwelling, as recommended by the county tree officer.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny, you're next, please.
Thank you. He was just about to answer my question when he got cut short. Can you just explain the ownership, please?
Oh, certainly. It's an interesting site ownership in that the land was owned by Winston Graham, who lived in Treslovene, the author of Poldock. And the land is currently owned by his daughter, Rosamund Bartow, and she is the applicant. So it's in family ownership.
And was it part of a house or the grounds of a house?
It belonged it was part of the house Treslovene, which is immediately adjacent to the site to the northwest.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see no other questions indicated. Can you confirm, please, Vice Chairman?
Yes, I can, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Then in that case, Mr. Green, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Chair, and a Merry Christmas to you all.
And to you. I've just heard Mr. Callan, Councillor Callan is not here. That's correct, Emma?
That's correct, Chairman. Yes, he won't be present today.
Right. Is there a statement or anything?
No, I haven't received any statement. No, I think the parish council have obviously confirmed what his views are on the application.
Right, thank you. Then we simply move on to questions of the planning officer, please. Would you like to indicate if you have questions of the planning officer? And do remember the tree officer is also here. Councillor Mould, you're first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just interested in the tree officer's report, which is quite extensive. And I just wanted to ask the case officer if we could just give me a bit more information on how he married up the tree officer's report with policy 23, because he points this out as this application not being compliant with policy 23.
Yeah, obviously it's a balanced decision, and in this case there's more than three. Well, there's two independent tree experts who've advised the applicant, plus our own tree officer, and the application was considered by the design review panel. So I'm not saying that, and I do acknowledge in my report about the harm that there would be to the trees, but it's in the long term, whether that harm is so significant as to justify refusal, bearing in mind that the scheme has been designed as far as practically possible to take account of the trees, and that there are, as I pointed out in my presentation, there are houses within the TPO area already. I think it would be different if it was a designated woodland, developing woodland designation, but it's not. It's an area tree preservation order. So, but at the end of the day, it's a judgment. It's definitely one. You know, officers do sometimes disagree. I've disagreed with highway officers in the past. It's rare to disagree with a tree officer, but I think on balance, as I said in my report, that's why I've come to that conclusion.
And can I also ask, Madam Chair, can I come back? Is this is this going to be is still going to be payable on this, and is there any affordable element attached to it?
SIL is definitely payable, but there won't be any affordable because it's below the threshold.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Alvey, you're next.
Thanks, Chair. And this, to my mind, this comes down to the subjectivity for us in this is whether or not we feel that there is sufficient weight in the tree officer's report and objection really on its own to lead to refusal. Really, my question is tree impact on its own sufficient to refuse an application?
Refuse an application, but in this case, sorry, Councillor. But it's a balance at the end of the day. There will be harm, and I've acknowledged that. If the committee comes to a different view on the balance, that is there. But in my professional judgment, looking at all the issues, I don't consider the harm is so significant as to justify refusal.
Thanks, but I think my point is, though, that as a single reason for refusal, should we agree with the tree officer that the harm is significant? Is that on its own sufficient reason to refuse?
Well, as I said, I don't think so. But you could have a reason for refusal that referred to the loss of trees as the reason that you've come to the conclusion that it's not acceptable. But as I said, it's important to bear in mind the inspector will look at all these issues and he will go through the exercise that we are going through at the moment. And it is important, as you know, there's the difference between a planning officer and a tree officer. It's a single issue. We have to look at all the issues when making our decision.
And that really brings into my supplementary that there is also other harm identified, such as the less substantial harm to the heritage and the archaeology. So it's less than substantial, which on its own clearly wouldn't be reason to refuse. But is that another factor that can go into the balancing the scales, for want of a better term?
Well, in my view, I don't, because if you look at what our archaeologist has said on it, he's actually happy with that, because in view of the nature of the site, if without this development, arguably the heritage asset, which is the former mining processing, could continue to deteriorate. So there is I don't think, in my view, there isn't a archaeological basis for refusal of the application.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Greenslade, next, please.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I think listening to Mr. Marsh, he has satisfied my queries. So carry on, please.
Thank you. That's good. Councillor Tudor.
I'd like to ask a couple of questions of the tree officer, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you. Firstly, thank you for coming. I wish the tree officer had been here the last time we looked at this application. So you've heard from the agent, and so I've got a couple of questions really, because the agent sort of talked down the trees, the quality of the trees that were there. I wondered, firstly, if you could sort of give us your opinion of the qualities that were there and their value, which, as I say, we've been heard talk down. And also, could you tell us, well, I've got three questions. So could you tell us, in your view, the value of the trees that are there on the site, which might be felled? Which parts of this application you believe might be conjecture, and what you would expect if this application were approved, what you would expect to see if you walk down that road 10 years from now?
Right.
Sorry, that's three questions for you. But
thank you for having me. I'll endeavour to answer these questions one at a time, but feel free to point me back on track if I do deviate. If I may, Madam Chairman, just two issues of clarity from previous discussion. The site history, it's actually post-industrial with a history of tin streaming, so the woodland has naturally occurred through regeneration since the cessation of industrial activity. And also for clarity, as Tim brushed upon, only those trees that are covered explicitly by the TPO, which is those that were present in 1991, would we have any material control over as the local planning authority. I just wanted to get those issues clarified up front.
Thank you.
So, Dulcie. When I visited the site, I was coming to it fresh, with no arboriculture reports submitted that had been considered, that allowed a completely impartial, fresh perspective. Whilst there are a number of trees on site that are covered by the TPO, I was also considering the habitat itself, and remain of the distinct opinion that it is a woodland unequivocally, and that any attempts to diminish that by referring it to it as a group of trees is both subjective and just a matter of semantics. Charles earlier referred to 0.5 hectares being considered the lower limit for what would constitute a woodland. However, that's again a slight misinterpretation of that particular figure, which was simply the lower limit for a national survey undertaken by the Forestry Commission. In fact, areas as small as 0.1 hectares were considered as part of a statistical assessment within that National Forest Assessment. Furthermore, the Forestry Commission deem any area that is dominated by trees to the tune of 20% canopy cover to be woodland. Furthermore, the quality of a woodland is not merely in its trees, it's an ecosystem which contains fungi, bacteria, soil, insects, lichens, mosses, ferns, grasses, shrubs, and myriad fauna. There may be open spaces, in this case architectural feature, archaeological features as well. These things add up rather than just being a single element of the woodland. And I think therein lies the greater consideration of the woodland's quality. Its connectivity is an important factor to consider in modern times in terms of how that small compartment of woodland extends throughout the Perencombe Valley, connecting to former orchard areas, hedgerows, riparian woodland that runs along this stream bed, and extends to other existing woodland areas within the area. If you could just draw me to your second question.
Yeah, so it's 3 questions. That one. The second one was, it worried me last time this application came up that some of the points made by the agent that were taken into consideration were based on conjecture. What the people that live there are likely to be the sort of people that are going to look after trees and stuff. And I did, in your view, what's conjecture and what's fact here?
If Tim could bring up the slide, about the 4th or 5th slide, that shows the proposed tree removals. It was partially obscured by someone trying to join the meeting during the initial discussion.
Okay, I'll do that now.
Thank you, Tim. In terms of control, there are a number of trees that were present during 1991.
I'm not seeing anything yet. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
You got it?
It's that's the proposed plan with new planting. If you could go to the felling plan, which I believe was the previous slide. Yeah, all the trees shown there shaded are trees proposed for removal. The larger trees, which one can see by their greater canopy size, are likely to be those trees which are covered and will remain covered by the area TPO. In terms of control of future management, we would only be able to have an influence in terms of amenity on those larger remaining trees, of which there, as the site plan shows, will only be a handful remaining. The area currently proposed for removal is approximately 1/3 of the woodland, and that is just that those trees absolutely necessary to facilitate the development. That doesn't include any trees that any future resident would be at complete liberty to remove in order to improve the garden, improve light levels perhaps. Trees can be oppressive or be deemed to be oppressive when they're in close proximity to an area of private amenity space, in this case such as a roof garden. Considering the elevated nature of the properties, they will be completely within the canopy, so that proximity of those branches will forevermore require pruning to manage the spatial conflicts that will occur as a result of the trees growing. With regard to the new trees, they will not be covered by the TPO, merely covered by any planning condition. This may extend to 5 years, which is a common period by which those trees would be conditioned to be remaining and maintained. Beyond that, they would not be subject to any statutory protection.
Lovely, thank you. So that then brings us nicely round to the last question, which was, I suppose this is, but based on your experience, Mr. Cooper, if we were if this planning were given approval, what could we see if we walked down that road 10 years hence?
I would expect to see 2 large contemporary highly architectural dwellings that by virtue of their size would have a distinct impact upon the street scene of the main road through Perencombe. It's the opinion of the Forestry Service, and it's in our experience, that where trees and dwellings exist in close proximity, ultimately the pressure upon those trees leads to an inevitable further removal, a creep of the spatial requirements for domestic property. The mention of the archaeological enhancement and retention of those features, for instance, to protect archaeology features requires the further removal of trees. So it's a very much a balance. If I may just share the before and after image of the site. This is exactly what I would expect to see. please do feel free to let me know when that
someone
is.
Going, you wish to share? You wish Tim to bring some screens up?
No, I think Nick's bringing it up, Chairman.
Right. Thank you.
Something's coming up.
If someone could confirm that that's visible.
Hold on.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
My bad. Sorry. There seems to be an error there. The image at the bottom here is representative of the site as we currently see it. The image at the top shows two large dwellings dominating the street scene with small new plantings to the right of shot. And with in this case, a single retained tree between the two properties. Whilst this is indicative, it must be noted that that does confer, it does concur with the proposed layout in terms of there is a section of retained trees between the two properties to break up their presence. So that's very much what I would expect to see, give or take trees that are further removed to facilitate enjoyment of the properties by the residents. That which I previously mentioned is beyond the control of the LPA.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we all try to be as concise as possible on questions?
I do apologise.
We do have ever such. I think the agenda is quite lengthy. Right, Councillor Jewell, you're next, please. Can you unmute?
Yeah, I think. Can you see here? Yeah, is this a question for the tree officer, Mr. Cooper? Yeah. You mentioned, I've looked through your piece you sent to us, and it says it's British Standards 5837 in regards. What other, if we were to looking for refusal, what policies do you recommend? You know, what policies can we put in the mix, or shall we rely on our plan officer Tim Marsh to bring some up? What policies would you say to turn this application down?
In terms of policy, I've only mentioned in my comments that the proposals are at odds with the emerging neighbourhood development plan, where 85% of respondees rated trees and the natural environment as the most important thing in their consideration, and also policy 23 of the local national plan.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Right, Councillor Kenny, you're next. Please, would you like?
Thank you, Chair. I think Mr. Cooper's asked my first question. This isn't an overgrown garden. I can see it's the other side of a lane. So this is a piece of land that was used for, you said, for the industry and is now regrown. You don't have to answer that question. I think that's the other question is that's the first mention of the neighbourhood plan. What stage this is at?
Tim, are you ready?
Well, it's at a stage, it's emerging, but it doesn't carry any weight yet. So as I think Nick explained the position on it, it's too early to give it any weight. If I could just come in at this point on the discussion with regard to the proposed trees that will be an important part of this scheme, and Nick perhaps can confirm this. I think we would envisage that if it were to be approved, then a woodland TPO could be imposed, Nick, could it not? And that would give the protection that would be required to ensure the trees are taken into account and preserved in the longer term.
Yeah, there's a couple of issues on that. Thanks, Tim. The both myself and Oliver Bennett have raised issues in terms of the breadth, generosity and diversity of tree planting that's currently proposed and in the documents for approval. I would certainly see it were the development approved that we would seek a pre-commencement condition to secure further tree planting other than just the dozen or so oak trees in order to enhance diversity as much as possible for species resilience. And if you could just, the other issue, Tim, was TPO. I would recommend that the site be reassessed for the serving of a woodland category TPO, which would by definition protect all trees of whatever age and species, including the tiniest saplings all the way through to the largest trees on site. As I said, the diverse structure of a woodland is what makes it so. because those trees are currently unprotected, but I would certainly recommend that irrelevant of the outcome of the decision today.
I wouldn't say it's irrelevant, is it? Because that would afford protection. It would ensure that those trees would remain, which is one of the considerations. So I think it is.
Sorry, poor choice of words, Tim. I mean, should the application be refused, I would recommend that the TPO be updated to represent its woodland nature. And should the development be supported, then I would also recommend that the woodland nature is respected and the order is changed to preserve everything on site, including any new planting.
Thank you. We're ready to move on to the next questioner. You satisfied with that, Councillor Kenny?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Mould, you're next, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one question for Tim about the energy efficiency of these houses. Do we know if these houses are going to have ground source heat pumps? And if they are, Nick, can you just confirm what, if any, concerns we should have about ground source heat pumps and the roots of nearby trees, please?
My understanding is that they wouldn't be ground source heat pumps, but there are solar panels on the roofs and they will be designed for high thermal efficiency. So I'm pretty sure that there wouldn't be a proposal to install ground source heat pumps. It's certainly not part of the proposals as far as I'm aware.
Thank
probably
you.
It probably negates the next bit of my question there, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I've got a question, please, Tim. I was very struck by the fact that the parish council said that their main objection was design, mainly design was exactly the words used. Now, currently, the design has been to the design review panel and is a fairly eco-type design. Is it possible that were this to be refused, we could have coming back to us a more in character, less eco-friendly application, which would still result in the loss of trees? But more importantly on that point, would the appeal inspector, should this go to appeal, focus would they attach any weight to the fact that the parish council's objection is mainly design?
Well, I think obviously we're the decision-making authority. I think that the fact that the parish haven't raised the tree issue is an interesting point. But in terms of the design, I think not all applications get considered by design review panel, and this has a favourable response from the design review panel. And so I think, in my view, it's unlikely an inspector would go along with a design reason for refusal. But yeah, the parish council.
No, I didn't word that very well. But supposing we had a refusal on the issue of trees when the parish council didn't raise it as an issue, and when they're mostly objecting under the grounds of design, would that bear quite a bit of weight at appeal?
I guess it would carry some weight, but Nick has referred to the fact that in the emerging neighbourhood plan they've referred to importance of the trees on it, not specifically to this site. But I mean, clearly it's a consideration. It's somewhat odd, I guess, but yeah.
Okay, thank you. Right, I see no further indication of questions. Would you confirm that, please, Vice Chairman? Hello, Fred, are you there? Councillor Green?
Yes, I can confirm no further notification.
Thank you. Then we move into debate. Who's going to start, please? Councillor Tudor.
Thank you. Do you know, I wanted to be on planning committees when I was on the council planning committees, because I wanted to take part in committees that wouldn't sort of tug on my heartstrings and where I'd be able to go to sleep at night. I was worried if it's anything to do with, for instance, adult social care, education, or anything like that, I'd find it too difficult. But this one's really upset me. It's really upset me. We're not listening to our own tree officers. We're not listening to our own experts. After the last time this application came out, I took the time to ring the tree officer and speak to him about it, and I'm amazed it's come up again. And I can tell you that I've spoken to several tree officers about this case, about this application, and to a man, they are vociferously against it. Now, we've heard that that our own expert tree officer paid by the council considers this to be woodland, precious woodland, that has a value within the wider area and not just on this site. That the new planned trees that would be planted there in no way compensate for the loss of the trees that would be taken away, and that whoever lives there is going to have to then provide careful management of the existing trees and the new trees. And of course, nobody can guarantee that that's going to happen, and nobody can guarantee that further trees won't be felled. So I will listen to the debate, but quite frankly, I'm amazed we've got this before us. I'll listen to the debate for a while, but I will be proposing refusal on this unless someone else comes up and does that.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny, you're next.
I've got no hesitation in proposing refusal. It's not only, I have nothing wrong with the design. It's the design of the houses are modern. I've got no problem with them at all. But this is obviously a precious bit of woodland. It's not only the final result. We've all seen construction sites. We all know what devastation they do before they get themselves back and working. So you'd be losing a beautiful wild site. I would propose that we refuse on the sole on the sole reason for the destruction of woodland.
Thank you. I'm going to ask that if there is a seconder for that, can you indicate again, even if you're in the list of speakers, please? Thank you. That's Councillor Jewell. You came up first. Councillor Jewell, would you like to speak now?
Yes, yeah, thank you very much indeed. I wholeheartedly agree with the two previous speakers, and I refer back to when I spoke to the tree officer in regards to policy 23. I think he said was the main one, so I'm quite prepared to second Councillor Kenny's proposal for refusal, and I hope the case officer and the team leader will be able to help us to get the right wording. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I did have other speakers. Councillor Alvey, you were next. Would you like to speak still?
No, nothing more to add. I agree entirely with the previous speakers. I was going to propose refusal or second it if I'd have been quick enough. So yeah, no more to say.
Thank you. Councillor Jewell, you were next, but you've just spoken. So Councillor Mould, you're next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I really have to concur with what everybody else is all around policy 23, and I think policy 23 says it all. You know, I'm a bit like Councillor Tudor. I'm amazed this is here, and
sorry, you
feel strongly they take the time. I'm happy to support refusal, Madam Chair. Sorry if the reception's bad.
Yeah, you were breaking up a little bit for me.
Chairman, could I
Yeah.
speak a moment, please?
Of course.
Councillor, well, Vice Chairman, I note the way the meeting is going, and the voting may show what I believe to be the case. But if we have someone that really wants to support the application, could they come forward and speak? Because I feel most of the speakers listed here would support refusal. So to shorten the proceedings, unless there's somebody very strongly in favour and they speak now, could we then move along to the vote?
Well, we could, because in fact Councillor Mould was the last person that indicated to speak, Vice Chairman, until I asked for seconders. So I don't believe there is anyone else in the list wishing to speak. Can you concur? Go, Councillor Tudor, you wish to come back. Councillor Tudor, you wanted to come back?
I just wanted to say that if this does look like it's going to be refused, and it is looking like that, I wondered if as a committee that we could somehow facilitate the council going back and putting the TPO on this as a woodland area. I know that a couple of years ago all councils were asked to refresh TPOs and look at, but they haven't. I don't think any council in Britain actually has. I don't think they have the resources. So I just wanted to make sure that that is going to happen. Maybe we could recommend it as part of our refusal.
I'll ask the planning officer to comment on that, because I'm going to ask either Tim or Matt Stevenson to come in now, please. Do either one of you, would you like to comment on that? I mean, I'm sure it is something that if should the motion be carried, could be noted.
Yes, it's the redesignation really,
Yeah.
as woodlands. Yeah.
But did Tim or Matt, do you wish to speak on the wording of the proposal, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Shall I come in and just read through it? I would suggest the following wording. The proposed development does not accord with policy 12 or 23 of the Cornwall local plan and paragraphs 127 and 130 of the MPPF, because the proposed development will result in the loss of and pressure to fell or prune additional trees within an area of woodland protected by the Perricombe Tree Preservation Order 1991, and this would lead to the harm of the character of the area and the biodiversity on the site.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny, are you?
Yes, that's fine.
And Councillor Jewell, you're content?
Yes, but we do need to take on board what Councillor Tudor said into press for this to be classified as woodland in the future at the earliest possible time.
Yeah, and I'm sure Mr. Cooper is listening to that. Thank you. Right, then we go to the vote, please. We've got a proposal by Councillor Kenny on refusal of destruction of woodland policies 12 or 23 on the wording that you've just heard from Matt Stevenson. That's been seconded by Councillor Jewell. Emma, could you take the vote, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I'll read names alphabetically. Could you indicate whether you're for, against or abstaining from the proposal? Councillor Alvey.
For.
Councillor Batters.
For.
Councillor Brown, I believe, has left.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Councillor Bull.
For.
Councillor Dyer.
Against.
Councillor Greenslade.
For.
Councillor Jewell.
For.
Councillor Kenny.
For.
Councillor May. For. Councillor Mould.
For.
Councillor Tudor.
For.
Councillor Williams.
For.
Thank you, Chairman. I can confirm that the motion to refuse has been carried by 10 votes in favour with 1 against and no abstentions.
Thank you very much. We move swiftly on to agenda item 4.2. PA 200492, Mr. Dean Scantlebury, land west of Tressett Manor, Laddock. Proposed residential development comprising a cross-subsidy scheme for 28 dwellings, 17 affordable, estate roads, open space and landscaping. Case officer is Jeremy Content. Over to you, please, Jeremy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you see my screen and the presentation?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a full planning application for 28 dwellings, 17 of which are affordable, 11 open market, with estate roads, open space and landscaping. Key issues are the principle of the development, the scale in relationship to the settlement, access, affordable housing need and Section 106 obligations. There is the site outlined in red just to the east of the village of Laddock, and its closer view. So just to the north of that, there is an ongoing development which is nearing completion, and the committee should be familiar with that site. It has been before the committee before, last time in 2017. Just to the west of the site are Trethurf Villas and the access along there. There is an access down to the school and the church, which becomes pedestrian as you get closer to the village. The main vehicular route is to the south, and the proposed access is to the south of the site. There's an aerial view, and that's currently showing the access as at present, which is serving the development under construction just to the north. And that site will also, or that access will then serve the proposed development as well. So just a couple of views from looking at the site. This is from the access looking towards the rear of Trethurth Villas. And the same again, but you can just see centrally the new development. So you just see the roof of that in relationship to Trethurth Villas. And again, looking across the site, so that's looking north towards the ongoing construction site. This is looking south, and the hedge line, which is just here, the road is on the other side of that. That's from within the site, looking back towards the access. Then from the access, looking up the road and down, and that way leads you back towards Laddock Village itself. Again, just looking at the proposed access from the road, so visibility displays would be created there, and that would be required by way of condition. Turning to the site itself, just looking at the already consented site, which was a rural exception site, as is this site before the committee today. And that is looking at how the site will tie together with the development site to the north. The character of the proposals today is very similar to that previously approved, both in layout and in materials. Also to the south east of the site is an area of open space proposed. That's been changed from the original submission, and we get an improvement for that. Just giving an idea of the street scene, again very similar to the development which is nearing completion. And some of the scale of the buildings. Again, very similar in form and materials. So to bring this to a conclusion, the balance of considerations, the development's considered to integrate well with the edge of the settlement and with the neighbouring development site. The scale of the development is considered acceptable given the lack of landscape harm, and that it would provide additional footfall supporting local services. The proposal contributes towards the need for bungalows. There will be 4 of those, and smaller affordable homes. So it's a little more tailored to the actual housing need. And the highways access has been considered acceptable. Just one update for members there. I did receive an email from a resident last week which was raised concerns about the highways data that had been submitted with the application. This has been discussed with the highways officer who provided the initial response, and the highways officer has confirmed that they are aware of the situation, and that was factored into his response, and he is happy with the advice that he is given, doesn't feel the need to make any changes. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. We have a resident who wishes to speak in objection, Christine Clements. Are you there, please, Ms. Clements?
Yes, I am.
Lovely, thank you. You'll have 3 minutes to state your case, and you'll be told when 30 seconds remain. Thank you.
All right. I'm a long-term resident of Trethurth, and I wish to object to the extension of this development by 28 more houses. To increase the housing number to 52 is totally out of proportion in a village of just over 100 residences, and does not reflect the NPF guidelines in terms of appropriate size and scale. It's going to swamp the current 22 houses in Trethurth, and I can tell you that the whole of the community is opposed to this, and particularly those who've suffered during the building work. As has been highlighted, Laddock has a very limited infrastructure. Schools in the area are full, and Laddock School has not the room to expand unless you're considering going into the graveyard. The SF 106 fund is certainly not enough to provide increased spaces. The space for children from turf play outside is non-existent, leaving them to play in the road, which has become more and more dangerous with the increasing traffic. The playground is inaccessible as it is across the main busy 3275, and the space being proposed by the developer is derisory. Public transport is very limited and doesn't always run at times which suit people working in Truro and Austell. The roads bordering the site, despite the pictures, are narrow, and the sightlines into the C75 are limited, both from Trethurf Meadows and Trethurf. Also, during bad winter weather, the hill leading down to the B3275 becomes impassable due to the steep incline and the tight bend. The extra housing will add to the danger of this road, as residents will need to use their cars and increase the danger to pedestrians as there is no pavement. The very steep and often slippery churchyard is the only pedestrian access to the centre of the village and the small shop. Older and less able residents will find this access extremely difficult and will have to use their cars. I do not find the housing needs figures to be credible, especially when the developer has had difficulty finding buyers for the current shared ownership properties. Therefore, the figures being used for housing needs in the parish must be questioned. Also, in my experience, most young people want to be situated where there are greater facilities, transport and work opportunities, and job opportunities in the parish are extremely limited. All of the issues around this development run contrary to the statements in the Cornwall local plan, and there is no attempt at sustainability or carbon neutrality.
30 seconds.
On a final note, it seems to us that the needs and wishes of the existing villagers are being totally ignored and discounted in order to meet a planning tick list, and that the destruction of our village community and local heritage has no meaning. It is developers before Cornish communities yet again.
Thank you very much. Perhaps you wouldn't mind just staying there a moment in case there are any questions for you. Are there any questions for the speaker, please, for clarification?
Councillor Tudor is notified, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Tudor?
Hello. Yes, so you mentioned the school being full up, as a lot of these very good village schools are. But I'm wondering how many children at the school do you know actually live within Laddock or the immediate area?
Sorry, how many of
the children presently attending the school that come actually from Laddock?
Not many from Laddock itself, but certainly from the surrounding area. We are a very dispersed community around here, like most rural communities. So children are, if you come along here early in the morning, you will see the cars coming along Trethurf already. It is a very busy run into the school, and most children come in by car. So this will increase it even more. Well, no, it won't increase it. I apologise for that.
Thanks.
Yeah, yes, but it does facilitate the local area, and of course, Probus and other schools are quite full as well.
Thank you. I see no other questions indicated. Wait a minute, Councillor Mould.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I temporarily dropped out. This lady referred to the perceived problem of selling on the Help to Buy ones that are already being built. So do the parishes cascade with this affordable housing? Is there a cascade effect of outside villages that come into play if these can't be sold locally?
Yes.
Sorry, and that would cover up as far as Grandpound, would it?
Well, there is a proposal at the moment for another development towards Grandpound Road, which would be a much better.
Yes, that's in our convention.
Yeah.
So, but that would be part of your cascade, would it?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Right.
Somebody's mic is open, Chairman.
Yes, someone's got their mic open. Councillor Dyer, you're next, please.
I'm always concerned about the environment and the situation pertaining to Laddock in this case, but where are the people that are going to buy these houses going to work? And the answer to that is away from Laddock Parish, and as such it will mean journeys by cars. So 28 houses, you can fairly genuinely say that's 56 cars, and that's more traffic.
Dyer, can I stop you a minute? This is questions of the resident who just spoke in objection.
Well, I was hoping to seek her support. I'm seeking to support the resident that has just spoken, and I thought very sensibly was concerned about the village, its environment, and the employment of people from the village.
Yeah, but do you have a question? Do you have a question for Miss Clements, please?
Yes, I have a question of the resident. Does she agree with me in echoing concerns about these houses?
Of course she does.
Well, yes,
Very
she's
much.
just... Sorry,
No,
sorry.
very much so. I mean, we are in a rural area. We do have tractors. We do have cows walking down that road. We do have horses coming down this road. And there is going to be a multiple increase in traffic because there are not the facilities. If you need a doctor, you have to go to Probus. If you need anything besides basic shop, you have to go into Truro or St Austell or Probus again. We don't have the facilities here, and particularly for these bungalows, we're very concerned about those because literally, I mean, I'm 72 and I'm just about managing to walk up Churchill.
I'm sorry to stop you, but we have to have fairly concise answers, and I think you've answered Councillor Dyer's question. So thank you very much, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I have no other indication. Would you confirm, Vice Chairman?
Yes, I agree with you, Chairman.
Thank you. Right, we move straight on to Councillor Rob Thomas of Laddock Parish Council, who's speaking in objection. Can you hear me, Councillor Thomas?
I can hear you. I was muted. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Thomas, you have 3 minutes and you'll be told when 30 seconds remain. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The overwhelming case against this development and the opposition of the community is summarised in the planning officer's report, but he supports it despite the fact that it's not proportionate to the size of the settlement, is not accessible by car, and lacks the necessary facilities and infrastructure. This is the wrong location to meet the housing needs of the parish. 3 years ago, this committee narrowly approved the initial build, principally to avoid risking the costs of an appeal. Now the developer is back wanting to double the size of the estate, and we really believe that this will be followed by further applications on adjoining land under the guise of rural exception. I want to focus on 2 arguments. First, as you've heard, the development is directly contrary to the principle of proportionality in the Cornwall local plan. A 50% increase in households is not proportionate. Secondly, the plan states that any decision should take full account of the sustainability of the settlement, services and facilities. This requirement can't be met in Laddock. Again, as you've heard, our primary school is rejecting in-year applicants because of a lack of physical space and facilities. The Section 106 grant is not nearly enough to rectify this situation and provide extra pupil space. The road network around the site is inadequate, and especially next to the school is dangerous. Pedestrian access to the village is via a treacherously steep path and across the B3275. There are no pavements along the main road to Laddock and a very limited bus service, and yet 25% of the affordable houses are designated Category 2 accessible homes. We do support an alternative development in Windmill Hill, which is nearer the housing requirement and facilities. This site can meet the immediate priority housing need, and we're actively seeking affordable provision to meet future needs. The register stands at 32 rental applicants. 22 are Band E, who've not been granted any reasonable preference. On shared ownership, Phase 1 had to be advertised outside the parish to attract the final applicants. We simply don't believe that this year's sharply increased Band E and Help to Buy applications reflect residents in immediate need of housing, and certainly not in this location. Trethurth has never been about meeting affordable housing need. Only 33% of the land take on Phase 1 is affordable, and despite the recent changes to Phase 2, the overall affordable land take across the two phases will still only be 36%. We ask you today to put the interests of the community in this matter ahead of any risks, including a risk of appeal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Thomas. Are there any questions for clarification of Councillor Thomas, please?
None indicated at present, Chairman.
No, I'll give it a moment. No. Thank you ever so much for joining us, Councillor Thomas.
Thank you.
And we move on to Alice Maffey, who is the agent speaking in support of the application. Can you hear me, Miss Maffey?
Chairman, it's Rowena Brebner, meeting producer. Could Alice press star and 6 to unmute the telephone, please?
Can you hear me?
Marvellous. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you very quiet. Would you like just to say something again a little, or perhaps you could speak up a little bit?
No problem. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, that's better. Right.
Fantastic.
Thank you for joining us. You have 3 minutes and you'll be told when 30 seconds remain.
Marvellous. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alice Maffey and I'm a development manager at Ocean Housing. We are a housing association that owns over 4,700 properties within Cornwall, and we acquire our new stock of homes via our own grant-funded programmes, as well as purchasing Section 106 units free of grant via planning games like this. In September 2020, we purchased all 12 affordable homes, 8 rented and 4 shared ownership on Phase 1 at Laddock. 7 of the rented properties went to primary applicants, and half of the shared ownership properties also went to primary applicants. Our residents here include a school teacher and families who walk 200 metres to get to the local school. We have a register of interests of those who narrowly missed out on the shared ownership within Phase 1 and would actively want to purchase on Phase 2. The parish's housing need figures detailed on page 47 of the document pack illustrate a clear demand for affordable housing. For us, this demand is further compounded by the rented units being immediately occupied after completion and all of our sales completing on the shared ownership units within 4 weeks. The open market dwellings also only have 1 plot still available, and construction is yet to be fully complete within Phase 1. The team at DSD has provided us with units of exceptional quality and provided features over and above our specification, which we seldom receive on affordable housing. For example, some of these units included an integrated fridge freezer, dishwasher and large bifold doors. The quality and these added touches have allowed us as a housing association to bring to the market a fantastic but still very affordable product which people are proud to call their home. The existing scheme truly looks and feels tenure blind and enables a mixed and sustainable community to grow within the village. DSD have actively involved Ocean from the inception of Phase 2, taking on our views in terms of what we'd like to see and what we would feel would work for a sustainable community to be achieved. For example, the inclusion of 4 one-bedroom homes, which reflects the housing need, but also provides a more desirable and easier to manage product in comparison to flats. In addition, the provision of 1 and 2 bedroom bungalows allows for the older person's need in the parish to be met, as well as the potential for future adapted units to be created. Following on from the success of Phase 1, we are fully supportive of the application and look forward to working with DSD, who will be providing great quality and much needed affordable homes within the village.
Thank you very much. Perhaps you just stay there a moment in case of any questions. Are there any questions? Thank you, Councillor Kenny, you're first.
Yes, looking at the outline of the which is up at the moment, I can see, I assume, what you're going to call a turning point on the east. Does the developers, do they own the adjacent fields? I mean, is there a plan? Because that looks a bit like a road to the next estate. So we're going to get a second application or a third application coming in. So the ownership of the retained fields to the east of the site.
As far as I'm aware, yes, they do own the fields adjacent to the site. However, the turning point would have been introduced because for Cornwall Council to adopt highways, the road needs to include a turning point for the provision of large refuse vehicles turning and things like that. So even though I can understand your concern that it looks like that, it doesn't necessarily mean that a further phase would be coming forward. And for us as a housing association, it would be important for us for the road to be adopted, since that would then reduce the service charge provision, etc.
But is there a further stage coming forward?
I am not aware of any further stages coming forward.
Thank you. Councillor Mould, you're next, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I just go back to, I just think there seems to be a bit of conflict between what the parish councillor, was it the parish councillor, about the shared ownership. I think you said that half of the shared ownership had gone to people that were local. Yeah, but what happened to the other half, please? And because there was some indication that you had to cascade out to fill those.
Yeah, so 2 of the units went to primary applicants. This means that they had a direct local connection with the parish of Laddock. 1 went to a secondary connection, so that is a parish which borders the Laddock parish as outlined in the Section 106 agreement.
Yeah.
And then 1 unit went to county. However, I must make clear that county obviously is anything outside of primary or secondary. So can still be within a very short distance of the site itself. There are cascade periods, so as outlined in the 106, so after a certain amount of time, we as a housing association are allowed to and encouraged to cascade that out outside of the primary parish. Sometimes.
So sorry, could you just confirm how many have been cascaded outside of the parishes?
So 1 went to county.
Yeah, that is just that 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see no one else indicating questions. Could you confirm that, please, Vice Chairman?
Confirmed, Chairman.
Thank you. Then thank you very much for joining us, Ms Murphy. And we move on to Councillor Ethorne Gibbons. Councillor Ethorne Gibbons, you'll be asked to sum up after 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to say a few words. I shall be brief, and I don't think I'll need the full 5 minutes. First of all, may I thank the planning officer for his efforts to produce a clear and succinct written report. But as indicated by a local resident and the parish council, there are a number of serious contentions, not least on the balance between open market and affordable bedrooms, not just properties. Disappointingly, the planning officer's clear and succinct presentation this morning did not address these matters, but hopefully he will do so in due course. But I do welcome the recent site visit which he arranged and which the attendees found very useful. I make 4 points. First, the scale of development is very high given the village size. The 50% increase in stock as set out on para 42 of the papers will change quite significantly the character of the village. Further, neither the policy need nor policy mix of housing is clear, and should greater weight be given to the number of bedrooms or the number of properties. 2. The highways implications on the constrained sections of C0075 and the B3275 junction represent high risks, and not for the first time are underestimated. 3. Though I welcome the proposed Section 106 contributions to improve local facilities, notably the sorely needed improvements for school, but wonder what weight they should be given in planning decisions, which should be decided on policy and principle grounds, bearing in mind precedent. Fourth and finally, Madam Chairman, what weight should be given to the strong and sound opposition from the Parish Council, which you've heard today, as well as that from a large number of local residents, some 24 against, with only 1 in favour? That concludes what I have to say, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ethorne-Gibbons. And are there any questions to Councillor Ethorne-Gibbons, please, for clarification? Yeah, Councillor Kenny.
Yes, Councillor Ethorne-Gibbons. Have you picked up anything on what's going to be happening to the retained fields?
No, but I am concerned about the risk of what might happen there, but clearly the precedent has been established of building there, and yes, there is the risk there may be further, but at the moment I have no indication in terms of what might happen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jewell, would you like to unmute?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ethorne-Gibbons. Do you feel that the 50% increase in amount of housing stock is a step too far for the village at this present time, with the insufficient services and employment in the nearby area?
Very much so. As I said in my introduction, it would change the character of the village significantly, and in my personal view I don't think it's appropriate for that to be done at all. But my concern on all this, and obviously it's a planning matter, is the precedent has been established with the first development, but again in my view this is a step too far with the latest proposals.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see no other questions indicated. Confirmed. Thank you. Then thanks very much, Councillor Ethorne-Gibbons. We now move on to questions of the planning officer, please. Can you indicate if you have a question for the planning officer? Councillor Kenny, you're first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really wanted to ask have you got affordable housing here?
Yes, we do.
Right. Really, it's the needs. It's quite clear that this is going to be a big expansion of the village. Does the village itself or the parish actually have the affordable housing need to fill all these houses, or are you anticipating that adjoining parishes will come, and in fact you're asking the village to take on the affordable needs for the whole area?
I believe Nikki Mantle, you're here for affordable housing. Could you answer, please?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we are comfortable that the level of housing need is there. There are, as of December, there are 40 households registered on Home Choice. Obviously, we've got 8 of those households are accommodated within the first phase. So there is a current housing need from the local community of 32. We also have 18 households registered with Help to Buy, looking for affordable home ownership in the parish.
But are all these requests from the parish, or are they coming in from outside who fancy living in Laddock?
There'll be a mix. The need is about those people that have a local connection to the parish. So those the number of households that meet the criteria for parish connection, and they've got there are a range of reasons for wishing to move, ranging from improving their existing accommodation, needing independence, or current property in poor condition. So those are, there may not be people that live in the parish, but there'll be people that have a local connection to the parish.
All right, are you happy with that answer, Councillor Kenny?
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Alvey. You're next, please.
Thanks, Chair, and I apologise if I've missed someone else asking you. So I literally had to nip out for 2 minutes because someone from South West Water came to the door. My question relates again to the affordable housing mix. Now, I'm under the impression that with a Policy 9 site, whilst the aim is 100% affordable, the 50% threshold for both the number of houses and the land take is explicit, and actually I was cited on the response to a recent complaint by a developer, whereby it was stated quite clearly in that response to the complaint that the 50% threshold isn't explicit. Now, this application looks to take more than 50% of the land take for the market price housing, in which case surely this is not policy compliant. And I appreciate it, fine tuning might see that change, but as it stands, more than 50% is for market rate housing of the land take. I wonder if the planning officers could explain that.
Thank you. Who wants to answer that one? Tim, do you want, sorry, Jeremy, do you want to come in on that one? Hello?
Chairman, I think he's on mute. Jeremy Content is on mute.
Jeremy, are you on mute?
Madam Chair, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, thank you.
My apologies for that. Yes, the policy 9 is explicit, and it says that the land take for the development should be no more than 50% for the open market. In this case, the land take is 51%, and the reason for that in part is the housing mix that has been proposed. So there are 4 flats within this, there are bungalows, and there are a more than higher proportion of 2-bedroom properties on that. So the outcome initially was that the land take for open market was much higher. The developer has worked very hard to actually bring that back down to a point where they're very, very close to policy compliance on that. And the officer view is that the benefit of providing those smaller dwellings, which include flats for which there is a definite need, outweighs that policy compliance, because we would be meeting the community need more closely. So to my mind, the benefit of meeting that need for local affordable housing provision outweighs the, to my mind, very minor difference in the policy take. And to bear in mind again, if you have flats, you don't necessarily have much garden space with those. So on that side of things, I considered on balance that the application was to be supported. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. We move on to Councillor Tudor and then Councillor Jewell, please. Would you like to unmute, Councillor Tudor?
Thank you. I was going to ask the same question as Councillor Alvey. It's just been answered. Thanks.
Thank you. So Councillor Jewell?
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, we hear these figures going around that it's going to increase the housing stock of the village by 50%. In your view, do you think that is a wise thing to do? Or is this because of the reception site, you agree that those 2 sites together will be half the size of the existing village? Do you think that's a step too far?
Through you, Madam Chair.
Yes,
in this instance, I don't. I consider, as with the development under construction, that relates well to the village, and the appeal inspector at the time considered that it related well to the village. As with this application before the committee, I consider it relates well to the village as well in terms of integration with the village edge. Yes, it is a significant increase in the numbers of housing, but I don't consider that that is harmful to the character of the village simply because of where this is located. The village itself has a fairly unique layout with a lot of development in and around the crossroads. Then you have Trethurth Villas, which is slightly separate but quite clearly linked via the school route and pedestrian route down. So although it is a significant increase in terms of the proportion of housing there, I don't consider that it's actually harmful to the character of the village itself. And that, to my mind, is also balanced by the benefits of providing for the affordable housing to meet that local need. So again, it's a matter of balance on this one, and quite clearly without the affordable housing need, there wouldn't be that balance against the proportional increase against the size of the village. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I see no other questions indicated. Vice Chairman?
Agreed.
Thank you. Then we move into debate. Who wishes to start the debate, please? Councillor Tudor, you were first, please, and then Councillor Alvey.
Thank you. This application reminds me very much of an application of the Cornwall Community Land Trust in the village, and that where affordable housing and appropriate housing, you know, for not just young families but older people and people that need, you know, bungalows or small homes was very much needed. And the parish council and a lot of the locals in this area at the time were very much against it. And what I heard then and what I hear now is the argument that there's no need for new affordable housing, thank you very much, said by people who have nice local housing themselves. Thank you very much. It doesn't bother me that the fact that this increases the size of the village by 50%. And we've heard from the Cornwall councillor that this will change the character of the village. But why is the character of the village as it is at the moment? It's because nobody can afford a home there. That's why it's so small. It also, the fact that the school was full, that was cited, interested me, because that was the same for the Nancledra application that I'm thinking about, where the school was full, that people from far and wide were coming to, which usually happens, to a great village school with fantastic teachers. But actually there was only one child there in more than 200. It was actually from the local area. The rest were being sort of driven in from outside, which can happen with really good quality village schools. So I would be fully in support of this. I'll listen to the debate because I'm the first person speaking. I'm fully in support of this. It brings affordable housing of the right kind to a place which is obviously expensive and desirable, and I'm all for that.
Thank you. Councillor Alvey.
Thank you, Chair. And really my point I want to make really comes back to the question that I asked, and Mr. Content answered it very, very eloquently. But ultimately, this is a Policy 9 exception site, and we, as a council, have made it very clear by mentioning the fact it's an exception site, it should be 100% affordable, with an absolute line drawn at the 50% for both number of properties and land take for open market. And we're now trying to chip away at that 50%. Now, I take on board everything that Councillor Tudor has said in terms of the need and such like, and I do have some sympathy for that. But ultimately, unless that 50% minimum land take is achieved, then I think we're opening ourselves to future people chipping away at, well, perhaps next time it's 52% and next time 53%, and before we know where we are, the 50% threshold that we've set goes out the window. So if the developers could come back and with maybe just a matter of making a garden bigger for one of the affordable homes, to create that 50% threshold, I would struggle to oppose it. but as things stand, I can't support it.
Thank you. Councillor Mould and then Councillor Kenny, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I concur an awful lot with what Councillor Alvey has said, but my issue with this is that I don't. It's the affordable, it's the open market element. Now, the last development, it seems to me, they had to struggle to fill and had to go out of the county, put it out to county to fill. Now, this happens more often than not, and it's fine to say let's build in Laddock, but it's not everybody that wants to live in these rural exception sites, and I speak of experience. They're very often built somewhere where you cannot be without a car, you cannot be without some sort of other regular bus service, which this does not have. And whether the school is popular or not, the fact remains it is full. So somehow you have to get your children to the school, to where your school is going to. Now, there is an affordable housing element apparently out towards Grandpound, which people seem to think is more acceptable. And the amount of people in Band E for this, for the housing, you know, it more or less a wish. You're not guaranteed that. And then we come down, my very last point is to this affordability. And it's, you know, all the things I've mentioned previously, it may well be that the open market is just not affordable to some local people. So I take real issue with this affordable, this open, shared ownership. You know, the rented properties, if they were all to be rented out, I'm sure somehow they would be filled. But this shared ownership, people don't have to live there if they don't want to, and if there's somewhere else that's more accessible and more suitable, they'll take it up. So right at this moment, I'm on track with Councillor Alvey and not inclined to support, but I'd like to listen to the rest of the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kenny. Would you like to unmute?
Thank you. Yeah, yeah, I don't like the development. I think it's too many houses on the edge of a small village. I don't think the village is full of millionaires, as Councillor Tudor tends to suggest, and I do think there's going to be another request to come in and develop the adjoining fields. However, having said that, I don't think we have sufficient here to be able to turn it down. I've looked at the appeal on the that took place, so that was largely on transport grounds. I don't think we have sufficient evidence. This is a good quality development. The housing association is good quality, so there's nothing on those lines. It is purely the effect on the size of the existing village, and I'm afraid I don't think that will work at appeal. And neither do I think when the new one comes in. I could have done with a master plan for the whole area, because that makes it rather clear. And I think it's a shame that we haven't actually spoken to the developers, only the housing association. But I'm reluctantly having to support this one. I'm not going to make the proposal because I don't like it, but I just don't think we have enough to turn it down.
Thank you. Councillor Jewell.
Yeah, I concur more so with Councillor Alvey and Councillor Mould. I was on the planning committee when the other one came in, and I believe, if I'm correct, that was an exception site. And same old story, here we are again. It doesn't take a rocket science to work out what's going to happen next. The rest of that field will be coming as phase 3 and phase 4. I've got nothing against the social rented part of the development, but you're always going to have, like the parish councillor said, 60, I think it was 60% open market in each of these developments, and the village is not a sustainable location. The people that are going to be there on the affordable flats will need a car to get anywhere. They may not be able to afford to have a car, but they'd be better suited in a town, a bigger conurbation for this type of accommodation. This is an isolated area. The schools are full. They're going to have to take their children elsewhere, and the land has been taken really 2/3 by the open market development. And is this what we want in Cornwall? A 50% increase in this village? Is this what we're going to roll out across Cornwall? I think not, so I cannot support this one at all.
Thank you, Councillor Batters. You're my last hope for somebody actually moving this forward.
Well, against the trend so far, Chair, I will be very concise in the fact that I agree with a lot that Councillor Kenny and Tudor said, so I will propose the application goes forward on recommendation.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful for you being concise and for moving it forward. Right, can I ask people to indicate if anyone is willing to second the proposal, please. Councillor Tudor, do you wish to speak?
Second it. I'll second it.
Thank you. Right, so I have a proposal for approval as set out, which has been seconded, proposed by Councillor Batters, seconded by Councillor Tudor. Is there any further debate, please? And I see nothing indicated. Would you concur, Vice Chairman?
Yes, I can concur, Chairman. And could we go to the vote, do you think, please?
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you very much. In that case, a proposal for approval as set out, proposed Councillor Batters, seconded by Councillor Tudor. Emma, would you like to take the vote, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I'll do a roll call alphabetically. If you could indicate whether you're for, against or abstaining. Councillor Alvey.
Against.
Councillor Batters.
For.
Councillor Brown.
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't present for the whole debate.
Thank you. Councillor Bull.
For.
Councillor Dyer.
Against.
Councillor Greenslade.
For.
Councillor Jewell.
Against.
Councillor Kenny. Councillor Kenny.
I think you're muted, Councillor Kenny.
Councillor Kenny, can you hear me? I'll move on, Chairman. Councillor May.
Against.
Councillor Mould.
Against, and can I have my name recorded?
Councillor Tudor.
For.
Councillor Williams. Councillor Williams.
Against, sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny, can you hear me?
Chairman, it looks as though Councillor Kenny may have dropped out. I can't see her in the participant list.
I think it's important, isn't it, with the vote that we tried to contact Councillor Kenny. We said
I'll try and call her.
We said we'd adjourn the meeting, didn't we, at the beginning if a member had technical issues?
Chairman, while we do this, could we refrain from any debate then, please?
Yes, certainly. Perhaps we could gain Councillor Kenny's vote by telephone and then deal with the technical issues whilst we move forward, which will be to a comfort break.
Chairman, I've just spoken to Councillor Kenny. She's having technical problems and she's going to abstain from the vote and try and rejoin the meeting, but she's happy to abstain from this particular vote.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. In that case, I can confirm that the motion to approve has been lost by 4 votes in favour, 6 votes against and 2 abstentions.
Thank you. In that case, I'm looking for a further proposal, and I see Councillor Alvey. You were quick off the mark.
Thank you, Chair. And actually, I'm not going to propose refusal, funnily enough. What I am going to propose actually is that we defer and give the applicants the opportunity to come back with something that actually tips over the threshold, the 50% affordable land take threshold, and certainly I would be minded to support the application on that basis. I don't know if others feel similarly, but certainly that was my proposal, is that the applicants given the opportunity to return with something that's policy compliant.
Thank you. Now I see lots of X's going in, but I'm going to say right now I'm not going to take those for seconding. Can I ask if you wish to second that proposal that you indicate now, please? Councillor Tudor. Do you wish to second Councillor Alvey's proposal?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Do you wish to say anything at this point?
Only that I think it's a brilliant idea, the deferral. Otherwise, we may lose the affordable housing there.
Thank you. Right, now we go back to, we've had since Councillor Alvey proposed, we've had two others indicating they wish to debate further. Councillor Mould?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Jewell?
No, we'll let this deferral go through to the vote first, and then we'll come back with a proposal for refusal if that fails. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then I've got no further indications for debate. Can you confirm that, please, Vice Chairman?
Yes, I can, Chairman.
Thank you. Then in that case, we have a proposal by Councillor Alvey to defer for the applicant to have chance to regularise the land take. We have that seconded by Councillor Tudor. Emma, would you like to take the vote, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I'll do an alphabetical roll call. Could you please confirm whether you're for, against or abstaining? Councillor Alvey.
For.
Councillor Batters.
Yes, for reluctantly.
Councillor Brown.
I will abstain for the same reasons as on the previous vote.
Thank you. For. Councillor Dyer.
Against.
Councillor Greenslade.
For.
Councillor Jewell.
For.
Councillor Kenny.
Abstain with apologies.
Thank you. Councillor May.
Against.
Councillor Mould.
Against.
Councillor Tudor.
For.
Councillor Williams.
Against.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. I can confirm that the motion to defer has been carried by 6 votes in favour with 4 against and 2 abstentions.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to call a comfort break. It is a strange time. It is 11:52, which would give you 8 minutes to 12. So shall we say 5 past noon back here, please?
Chairman, can I just say before you adjourn that to remind members that the live stream remains live, so please turn cameras off and mute all microphones. Thank you.
No, we'll make it 5 past just to give you enough time for those of you that need that. Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
We said we were going to be out by 12, be out by 12.
Ask if they're on.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes, everybody can hear you, John.
Well, I can't hear a thing from the.
No, that's because we're on a comfort break. We'll be starting again any minute. Can you tell if everyone's back, Emma?
Chairman, I can't tell, but if you want, I'll start a roll call.
Yes, that would be helpful, I think.
Councillor Alvey, are you present?
I am, yeah. Sorry, my unmute wasn't unmuting.
That's fine. Councillor Batters, are you present?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
Yes, very much so.
Thank you. Councillor Bull?
Yes.
Councillor Dyer? Yeah.
He was there just a moment.
He's back. Councillor Greenslade?
Present.
Councillor Jewell?
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Councillor May?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Mould?
Sorry, yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Councillor Tudor?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Williams?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Dyer, you are there, aren't you? You're on mute at the moment, Councillor Dyer.
Is that better?
I think that indicates Councillor Dyer is here.
I think so. That's everybody.
Let's try and get through the next two items, of course, thoroughly, but with it being as concise as possible, bearing in mind time.
Please.
Right. Agenda item 4.3. PA 20-03582, Mr. Morris, south of Lower Trewedna Barn, Trewedna Lane, Perranwell Station. Application for outline planning permission with some matters reserved for residential development of up to 9 dwellings, access only. Case officer is Ellis Crompton Brown. Thank you, Ellis. Over to you, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, members. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, this is an application by Mr. Morris for outline planning permission for residential development of up to 9 dwellings on land south of Lower Trewedna Barn in Perrinwell. The key issues are the suitability of the site for housing, the potential impact on landscape, the affordable housing need, and the potential archaeological impacts. The site is located at the western end of Perrinwell, outside the area of outstanding natural beauty and adjacent to Trewedna Lane. The site is bordered to the northeast by Trewedna Lane, with residential properties on the other side of the road and some further properties on the opposite side of the road, which leads to Pelleen Cross, which is on the southern boundary. The site shaded yellow representing existing residential areas. This is the aerial photograph of the site with the plot outlined in red. Although the application is outlined, the applicants have included an indicative layout plan for the development showing how the proposed 9 dwellings could fit onto the site. The proposal includes a footpath connection within the site boundary and behind the hedge, which would link up with 2 other footpaths off-site to the south. The photograph is of the eastern corner of the proposed site, looking northwest along Trewedna Lane, and the trees there would remain. This photo is along Trewedna Lane, and the proposed access will be approximately where the first telegraph post is on the left-hand side. This is looking northeast towards the corner of the site and towards the existing residential properties. And this is taken from the northwest boundary of the field, looking east towards the existing properties on the other side of Trewedna Lane. And finally, this is the view looking southwest further into the field and away from Perrinwell, looking towards the rising ground and towards Pelleen Cross. The concerns of the local residents and the parish council have been taken into account during the application determination, and members should be aware that further objections have been received in the form of a petition, which is summarised on the update sheet. On balance, it's considered that the provision of the exception site is justified, and the site would sit well in the location without unacceptable harm to the landscape. The recommendation is therefore for approval as set out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was beautifully concise. Thank you. We do have a member of the public speaking in objection, and that is Diane Hurst. Can you hear me at all, Miss Hurst?
Chairman, if she can press star and 6, that will unmute her telephone.
Hello, can you hear me, Miss Hurst? Hello.
I can hear you.
Lovely, thank you. We can hear you. Ms. Hurst, you have 3 minutes to put your case, and you'll be told when 30 seconds remain. Thank you.
I'm here to represent the 126 parishioners who signed a petition objecting to planning application PA 20-03582, Trewedna site. Brief history: 2 rehabs, 1 withheld from the public domain, 12 planning applications, 4 retrospective, 2 enforcement investigations, 2 appeals dismissed, the latest on conflicting policies.
Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, I think we lost you just for a moment, but you're back. Okay. Perhaps you could adjust the timing, please, Emma. Right, if you'd like to carry on, please.
Okay. 2 appeals dismissed, the latest on conflicting with policies 127, 12 and 23. Applicants started with 30 houses, now down to 9. As we know, 10 and above is a major development. Information incorrectly forgiven. Cornwall Station Cornwall Landscape Code is CA13, not CA11 as stated. We are not a town. The address of the site changes from east to south on different applications for the same land. Confusion intended. Historic and environmental planning archaeology have asked for further reports which have not materialised. No viability feasibility study available to the public domain. Affordable housing stated in 2019 low housing needs in Cornwall Parish. Since proven as existing houses on Melingi site are difficult to fill. The site is unsuitable for elderly and disabled for the most obvious reasons, add to which it's outside the village confines. This application is the tip of a big iceberg. Please read the letter from Sharon Hindley. It makes a mockery of the statement by developer a small development. Morris Farms have lied and deceived to try and obtain their aims of a large development from day one. Please note the history. Cornwall is a special place and we have a responsibility for its future planning. We need to maintain and respect its character, especially recognising its urban landscapes. Development should ensure the protection and enhancement of its environmental qualities, therefore safeguarding the landscapes and geodiversity. This application does none of these. Government guidelines state planning has an important role in supporting those who earn a living from and maintaining the countryside, recognising the importance of varied roles of agriculture. Planning authorities should strictly control and discourage building on agricultural land being used to produce food and crops.
30 seconds.
This time. 30 seconds. This is land to agriculture, not an infill, not rounding off, not an exception. Housing surplus to requirements outside the NDP countryside, and that landscape harm outweighs any housing needs and would add a suburbanising element into the countryside. Policy 7. We need to prevent urban sprawl. Therefore, we request that this application be used on the grounds put forward and the misrepresentation being given by the applicant.
Thank you very much, Ms. Harris. Are there any questions? I see the Vice Chairman has indicated. Perhaps, Ms. Harris, you could stay there on the line just for a moment in case of questions. Vice Chairman.
Yes, thank you. If I could ask Ms. Hurst, I think I heard you correctly, but you said that somebody had lied and deceived to achieve their ends. Is that what you actually said?
I did, yes.
I wish to disassociate myself with that comment, Chairman. Please.
Yeah, and I perhaps should have stopped that, Ms. Hurst.
Okay.
I assume you have no evidence. I think I wish the committee to disregard that comment, please. It's not the kind of comment we wish for. Are there any other questions? None indicated. Would you concur, Vice Chairman?
Yes, I do.
Thank you very much. Then thank you very much, Ms. Hurst. Thank you for attending. We now have Councillor Bronwyn Freak of Perranarworthil Parish Council speaking in objection. Can you hear me, Councillor Freak?
Chairman, could Councillor Freak press *6 to unmute the telephone, please?
Can you hear me, Councillor Freak?
Can Councillor Freak press *6 and that will unmute the telephone?
Have you pressed *6, Councillor Freak? Yes, we can hear you. Very quiet.
I think you can hear me now.
Yes, that's better.
Yes, lovely.
Right, thank you for attending. You have 3 minutes, Councillor Freak, and you'll be told when 30 seconds remain.
Could I please ask if you have the aerial photograph available, and is it on show for councillors to see?
We're looking at the site plan at the moment. I'm sure the planning officer will put the aerial photograph up. There we are. Perhaps you'd like to speak now, please.
Thank you. The Parish Council have considered this application again and continue to stand by their objections. I also quote Policy 7, which states that the development of new homes will only be permitted where there are special circumstances. It also ensures that development occurs in the most suitable locations in order to protect the open countryside from inappropriate development. Paragraph 1.68 explains that the neighbourhood plans can provide a detailed definition of which settlements are for infill and the boundaries within which the policy will operate. Perranarworthil's neighbourhood plan has identified 4 settlements, all of which are distinguished through clearly defined physical features. In the settlement of Perranwell, the boundary is Truedna Lane and School Hill, as you can see from the aerial photograph. thereby placing the application site outside the boundary and clearly in the open countryside, where it would be very visible in a rural setting and would not enhance the area. Although Perrinal-Worthel's neighbourhood plan is still in draft form, both the draft housing policy and the draft design guidance have been completed and can be used to both inform and support the Parish Council's decisions as they reflect the views of the community. Although the appeals inspector on the previous application for a larger number of houses on this site indicated that the proposed site would continue the linear pattern of the settlement at the southern end of the village, Perrinal-Worthel's neighbourhood plan intends to adopt a policy of preventing coalescence between settlements. In the findings of the more recent appeal on the single dwelling application on Trewedna Farm, Lower Trewedna Lane, which was dismissed, decision dated 10th of December 2020, the inspector stated in point 12 that the proposal having regard to local and national policy for the location of housing with reference to the character and appearance of the area would conflict with policies 1, 2, 7, 12 and 23. Furthermore, the inspector states in point 13 and 14 that the scheme would conflict with the development plan policy for the location of housing and would undermine the council's plan-led approach. In doing so, it would harm the character and appearance of the area. And for all of the reasons outlined above, Perrinal-Worthel Parish Council would like you to recommend refusal of this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Freak. Perhaps you could stay on the line for a moment or two in case there are some questions. So questions for clarification, please, and Councillor Alvey, you've already indicated.
Yes, just a quick one. And I don't know if Councillor Freak can actually see the aerial photograph that we're looking at now, whether she's looking at it on her screen as well. But I wonder.
No, unfortunately, I'm not.
No, she's on the telephone, Councillor Alvey.
Yes, I was saying, but she might have it up on her computer, yes, still following the
yes.
The online broadcast. In which case, I might have to wait for later. But I just wanted to understand if the site of the refused appeal that she refers to is also visible on that picture.
Yes, it is very clearly visible. If you look at there are two aerial photographs, one showing a much longer view, because I wanted to make the point that it was clearly open countryside, which continued. However, on the photograph with the arrow on it, is that available to you?
I think that's what we're looking at the moment.
Right, thank you. Where the arrow points, obviously directly into that triangle in that the corner created by the two roads. But if you look to your left, you will see a hedge line coming down, and the application that I referred to that has been dismissed was back behind that hedge line, but not very distant from the bottom line of the triangle. And I think you can probably see a track going in from School Hill, which runs to Stithian, and that leads to that where the hedge line comes in, and that was just about there.
Thank you.
I suspect the divisional member will be able to help you with that, Councillor Alvey, further as well.
Thank you.
Councillor Kenny.
Yes, there are two aerial photographs on the application that was supplied by a third party. What we're looking at is the aerial plan with the proposal in big red letters with a red arrow. Is that the plan you're referring to?
It is for answering the last question. However, the second photograph is the same view, but much further distant, so it shows a lot more of the surrounding countryside.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see no other questions indicated. Concur, Vice Chairman, please.
Yes, Chairman.
Thank you. Then in that case, Councillor Freak, thank you very Thank you. We move on to hearing from the agent speaking in support of the application, Chloe Pitt. Ms. Pitt, can you hear me?
Chairman, can Chloe press *6 to unmute her phone, please?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
We can, thank you. You have 3 minutes to state the case and you'll be told when 30 seconds remain. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members and officers of the Planning Committee. My name is Chloe Pitt and I'm a Chartered Town Planner from Lawrence Associates, who are acting as planning agent for the application before you. As set out within the committee report, there is history to the site where a scheme was submitted for 20 dwellings that was refused by the council in 2018. Following the refusal, the decision was appealed and the planning inspector made the decision to dismiss the appeal. However, his reasons hinged on the scale of development that was not justified by sufficient affordable housing need, and the application at that time did not include adequate provision for open space. It should be noted that the inspector fundamentally disagreed with the council, however, in terms of their arguments regarding landscape impact and extending the village across Trewedna Lane. In short, it was found that there was no clear landscape reasons why the road should not form part of the physical boundary to the village, and that he thought that the development would be well related to the dwellings along Trewedna Lane, concluding that the development would not harm the character and appearance of the area. Following the outcome of the said appeal, a pre-application was submitted for a reduced scheme and subsequently the submission of this application. The Affordable Housing team have confirmed that there is sufficient need to warrant the scale of development proposed, and the applicant has agreed to the financial contributions sought towards education and the SAC, as well as the terms of inclusion of affordable housing and public open space. We acknowledge the level of opposition, including the petition reported as a committee update, which is unfortunate. In terms of the objections put forward within the petition, overdevelopment and loss of Grade 2 agricultural land are raised, yet given the scale of development relating to 9 dwellings, which is less than half of the original application, and given the size of the settlement, the proposal is of an appropriate scale. The point on the loss of agricultural land is noted, however, it's not uncommon for greenfield land to be lost to provide affordable-led schemes such as this. Concerning the comments on infrastructure, none of the comments received, i.e. education and highways, have raised any capacity issues. The point on the location of the proposed footpath is noted, however, this route is accepted by highways. Comments concerning the level of development is also acknowledged, yet there is an affordable need and hence the application being put forward. The scheme seeks to consider the principal residential development along with the layout and point of access.
30 seconds.
Given the reduced scheme the proposed development in comparison to the first application submitted in 2016, which is justified by sufficient affordable need, and that there are no objections from internal consultees over the layout or highways, it is respectfully asked that members can support this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pitt. Perhaps you could stay on the line in case there are questions, and I've already had Councillor Jewell indicate. Like to go ahead, please, Councillor Jewell.
Yeah, I was just going to ask the speaker in regards to the proportion of affordable. Could you tell me, it says 66% affordable, but how much of the actual site will those affordable houses take up, and how much of the site physically would the open market ones take over, please?
Hi, Councillor Jewell. I refer to the layout plan that was submitted with the application, which should be available in Ellis's plan. It's 66% of the development, which is for affordable. And as you could see on the indicative plan, if Ellis was to pull that up, it's pretty much 60% of the overall land take. So it's not biased.
Thank you for
confirming. Open. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next, Councillor Kenny, please.
Thank you. Is the land on this development the same land area that was on the earlier application?
It's half of the original application site.
Right. That follows my next question was, is there anything natural that actually delineates this particular patch of land from the rest of the field?
At present, no, but there is a proposed new Cornish boundary to make that formal definition.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see no other questions indicated. Can you confirm that, please, Vice Chairman?
Yes, confirmed, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Then thank you, Ms. Pitt, for attending. And we move on to hearing from our very own Councillor Williams. Councillor Williams, you know the rules. You'll be asked to sum up.
I hope I get the rules right, Madam Chairman. I'll do my very best.
Thank
What
you.
I'm going to start off with giving a little brief
Just a
outline.
minute, you'll be asked to sum up after 5 minutes.
Well, I'll hopefully get through by 5 minutes.
Right, thank you.
I'll start off with a little bit of history. This land here is part of the farm that I think most members have been there and had a look at it, so they know full well it's totally open countryside. But I'll start off now. In 2017, residential development refused 30 homes. March 2018, appeal dismissed. Then December 18, pre-app for exception site. Not recommended on affordable homes grades. March 20, application for 10 houses withdrawn. This class as a major development, so they knew that would cause them a problem. April 2020, application for 9 houses. Right, right. Number one, a statement of affordable housing does not stand up. There are affordable houses in the village awaiting to be filled. And I can guarantee you this morning, there are 4 brand new empty homes with no one of this village taking them up. And we've put in 15 affordable homes this year, and only 7 are from this village. And the rest, I'll read you a statement later as I go down through this. Let me just go on to the next one. This is not an exception site. They cannot class this as rounding off. Cornwall Landscape Code, CA13, is CA13 and not CA11. As stated, so houses are not in character or keeping within the area with 2+1 stories, causing it not to be low impact or stating. Historic environmental planning archaeology, they have issues with this land, and they have asked for some more information. They haven't been given it, as they weren't on the last one. Cornwall is not a town as stated. The application is on land which is much needed, and this is important, and used grade 2 agricultural land. We had no sooner got the potatoes out of the ground and this application came flying in. We have serious potato growers in this area, and they provide a big economy for the village. And we cannot afford to lose any of the grade 2 farmland for growing food. The KO Partnership Report number 2005RO37 Cornwall Statement reports that there should be a limit or restrictions to development on the outskirts of Cornwall. Cornwall does not need any more open market housing. There are planning already in place for, well, I've got 18, but I could probably add to that another 18. New houses to be built as planning permission to be built in this village. The site, not more than half a mile away, I've got 30 applications for open market housing. They've also got 8 or 9 already built that they cannot sell. Okay, so I'll just go refer now. I'm sure most of you have read the report from the inspector on the barn that we all saw on site. He have definitely stated this is in definite conflict with the Cornwall local plan, and I would ask all members to refuse this on the policies of 1, 2, 7, 12 and 23 local plan. Now I just want to read a little brief statement that I received. If I could find it. Right here somewhere. Yes. This statement was made when I found out in April that the 15 affordable homes that were provided on Malinghi Valley were not being filled by the people from the village that I fought hard to get for the people of the village. And this is what I wrote to.
Can you just?
I'm just going to read this out. This is important. Thank you for your inquiry regarding the new homes at Malinghi Valley and the Meadow Cornwall station. I apologise for my delay in replying. Ocean were approached in 2018 by a local landowner who wanted to build 30 homes in the area. It was a planning requirement that half of the new homes needed to be affordable led, i.e. affordable housing, and so 15 were built, 10 affordable and 5 shared ownership. The scheme went ahead with full approval and support of Cornwall Council. The new housing is subject to a 106 planning restriction, which dictates that the completed homes should be led to people who can demonstrate the required local connection. Section 106 of the planning criteria is drawn up and approved by Cornwall Council. I understand of your concerns how the scheme was allocated. I can confirm it was challenging to find suitable applicants who met the local connection criteria. The planning requirement set out in the primary local connection requirement to Cornwall parish, a secondary connection to the parish of Gwinnett, Key, Fiach, Myler and St Lucius and Stidians. After 28 days, if no applicant came forward from the primary parish, cascading out, I've nearly finished, Madam Chairman, cascading out, this is important, cascading out after 28 days, after 56 days, sorry, they could go out to the open market. Now, I can assure you that we have 2 people that moved in from Falmouth. Falmouth got huge pieces of planning.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. I
must want this application to be approved for our parish. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You may get asked some questions that will allow you to say anything.
I can say it.
Right. Councillor Batters, you were first with question, please. And then Councillor Tudor.
Yes, I've got to recap what my question was now, Chair, unfortunately.
Sorry, I was too long.
Yes.
So long ago.
That's right, yes.
Cheers for that.
Councillor Williams, you said this was grade 2 land, and you suggested potatoes, kale and everything was flourishing from the field.
Yes.
But can you tell me, is the applicant and the field owner one and the same person, please?
The applicant and the field are the same owners.
My question is, just to be concise, if we can, is the applicant and the field owner the same person?
Well, the landowner, yes, but not the grower.
Right, but the landowner and the applicant are the same person.
Yeah,
so
same person.
It just appeared that somebody was almost being driven out of agriculture to bring in the houses. That was all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Batters. Councillor Tudor.
Thanks. I just wanted to establish, is this a rural exception site or not?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, is not.
Well, I think that might be a question you need to ask the planning officer.
Okay. Yeah, no conflicting things. Thanks.
Thank you. I see no other indication of questions. Would you concur, Vice Chairman?
Yes, Chairman.
Thank you. And thank you very much, Councillor Williams. We now move on to questions of the planning officer. Are there any questions of the planning officer, please? Councillor Tudor, do you want to go first and ask your question because it seems more pertinent?
Thank you. Yeah, I was just about to put the cross in the box. Can I have clarification on, is this a rural exception site or not?
Can I just clarify, Council Chair?
Yeah,
the schemes put forward as rural exception schemes. The site itself isn't considered to be infill or rounding off. It's obviously outside of the settlement, and therefore it would have to comply with Policy 9, rural exception schemes.
At least 50%. Thank
Yeah,
you.
which is why obviously the report's been written up on that basis.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny.
Thank you. Could you put up the indicated layout of the site, please? Yeah. Right. Unfortunately, I've been looking online and the actual appeal inspector's report doesn't appear to be online, although there's huge numbers of correspondence on the appeal. Is this doesn't look to be less dense than the original application for that section of the land. So are we looking here at an application for 9, which would have been 9 on the previous application that was turned down? And because I can't see the inspector's report, can we just clarify what he said about the density of the, if anything, about the density of the buildings on the land?
Yes, Madam Chairman, through you. I mean, this application site is as part of the original, the earlier appeal site, which was for 20. So it only forms about half of the original site that we considered before. That was refused that appeal, and at the time the inspector was satisfied that the landscape character wouldn't be harmed by the proposal for the new developments. He refused the appeal based on the impacts for affordable housing. So that was why the appeal was refused 2 years ago. It was affordable housing rather than the layout or the density or the appearance of the site.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that I can't find the appeal report, but it looks to be much the same sort of density. It's a section, and I'm looking at the old plans, and it looks to be maybe 1 less. Would that be about right?
Yeah, well, there were 20 dwellings on the earlier application that was refused. This was for 9, so yeah, it'd probably be a very similar density.
Yeah, it's a lot smaller space. I mean, the original one was a big triangle with a big open green space in the middle, and this is just the top right-hand corner. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jewell, you're next, please.
Hello, thank you very much. Yes. Listening to the parish councillor speaker, she did mention that the recent appeal, which I went on the site visit, it was Nigel Braben. It was the bar which was turned down on the 10th. Have you seen sight of that appeal, and would you believe now, if you were to reassess this site, that you would take on board the views of the inspector in regards to the reason why it's refused on changing the character of the area?
Could I answer that, Chair? I've got that appeal decision before me.
Yeah, whatever, Matt.
Yeah, please, okay. Please do.
I don't think that appeal, I mean, I'll just try and advise committee that appeal really isn't of much use on this application, and I'll explain why.
Yeah, it'd be good.
That was obviously a conversion of a building, so that was looking at that particular part of Policy 7. So that's not that relevant to the Policy 9 we're looking at for this one. And I say that as because, well, if I can go from that policy, he was basically looking at that building and its conversion works and whether or not that would be suitable and have an impact on the area. So he felt on that decision, he looked at that building and its conversion and the domestication of the area around it would take an innocuous building and replace it with something far more overt, is what he said, with a somewhat confused design. It would therefore exert an alien residential influence upon this characterful scrubby site. And that was obviously looking at the conversion of a building. Really on this site, what you've got to look at is the new build element of this against Policy 9 and whether or not you think the impact on the landscape character from this development outweighs the need for the affordable housing on it.
Okay, I've got a second question for Compton Brown. In regards to the best and most versatile land, I mean, the grower that rents the land double crops the land, so it is best and most versatile. I mean, you say it's only a small amount, but I mean, it doesn't take a rocket science to work out what's going to be the next phase of this development, similar to what it was at the Landock Valley. You just see a line across the field, and this is the thin end of the wedge, I would say, you can see by the road area. Do you agree that this is a shame to lose the community impact of losing best and most versatile land should be taken on board? Because if everyone takes a little piece, we've lost a lot, haven't we?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chairman. Yes, obviously it is best and most versatile land, but it's not considered to be a significant proportion of that. So on that, on balance, we consider that the affordable housing scheme does allow us to balance it out. It's although it is affordable, it is grade 2 land. I'll say it's considered acceptable in this instance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dyer, you're next, and then Councillor Alvey.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm of the opinion that this council, Cornwall Council, probably under the Strategic Planning Committee, passed a resolution that grade 2 agricultural land should not be taken for development at any price. And I feel this is very topical at the moment when food production is going to be so very crucial to the future of the country. And I'm afraid I disagree with the planning officer that you can take a little bit here and a little bit there. And as Councillor Jewell said a minute ago, you end up taking an awful lot of the best land in the country. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Question, please, to the planning officer. Do you have a question for the planning officer?
My question is, has he studied the proposal that this council made to bar grade 2 agricultural land from any development? We don't have too much of it.
Thank you. Who's going to answer that one, please?
Perhaps I can, Chair. I'm not aware of any such resolution. Obviously, the policy we do have that is adopted is Policy 21, and therefore it is a material consideration, the loss of agricultural land. And obviously, the better quality that land is, the more weight you can give to the loss of it. What the case officer is saying is this amount of loss in his consideration is outbalanced by the need to provide local needs affordable housing, and that's obviously a matter for the committee as the decision maker to come on and look at that balance.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Alvey, you're next, please.
Thank you, Chair. And is the affordable housing officer still with us?
I believe so.
Good. My question actually links back to the fairly clear statement from Councillor Williams as the local member that the affordable housing need for the parish is not only already being met, but indeed it's been exceeded because there is a surplus that is currently unoccupied. I wonder if you could explain to me how you believe that there is a need where the evidence of the local member would suggest that it's already more than met.
Thank you, Councillor Alvey. Yeah, the information I have is based on the current Home Choice Housing Needs Register for local housing need, where we've got 19 households currently registered. And in addition to that, we've got 13 households registered with Help to Buy. My understanding of the site at Station Road is that there were flats provided on that development which were difficult to allocate, and that's been an issue, whereas the majority of other homes have gone to primary and secondary connection. So that, I think the issue is that they were flatted accommodation.
Okay. So the recommendation was for the wrong type previously, or the permission was for the wrong type previously. Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't know the previous scheme to that degree. In terms of the scheme that we're looking at now is presenting the majority of affordable homes as bungalows. So the presenting housing need that we have now for December there are 19 households with a local connection for the parish of Perranor Worthall, of which 6 of those are for people aged 55 and over.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Councillor Alvey.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Kenny, you're next, please.
Yes, if you can go back to the site layout, please. Right, so is the affordable housing, I mean, from the original plan, the top 4 that are much better spaced, much bigger, but much better spaced out. And then you've got to the left, you've got those the 3 red ones that all look a bit close together. Are they the affordable houses?
Well, through you, Madam Chair, the layout has been removed off the application, so this is just the indicative layout. But to give you an idea, those 2 there, which are the 2 blue ones in the corner, were open market, and I think this one, number 8 in the top left-hand corner, was also open market. So the green ones and the other ones on the bottom were planned to be affordable, but I say it's an indicative plan only.
They even indicatively, they don't look the same quality as the market houses.
The land take on this was between 55 and 60%.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions. Would you agree, Vice Chairman?
Yes, agreed, Chairman.
Thank you. But before we move into debate, I wonder if Matt, you could perhaps give the committee a steer on what they are considering here, because first of all, I noticed that it was mentioned that they intend to make some criteria in the neighbourhood plan, so it would be good for the committee to understand what weight or none has to be given to the neighbourhood plan. And there were 2 different appeals. One refused on affordable housing. The second was actually refused, and character of the area was given a mention. I wonder if you could just elaborate a little bit on what the committee needs to consider in terms of those points, please.
In terms of the neighbourhood plan, it's not advanced to the point where you can give that any real weight, but obviously you have the Cornwall local plan, which has a relevant policy, and that's the rural exception policy, policy 9. So that obviously does allow you to really balance out all the material issues that have been raised by supporters and objectors here. So obviously the impact on character, the loss of agricultural land versus the need for providing affordable housing for local need. So that's the balance.
The weight on both the appeal decisions, which seem to be slightly...
Well, I'm only aware of the previous appeal decision, which was the 20 house scheme. That failed on the basis of not having a 106 in place or presented to the appeal, I believe, for the affordable housing. And obviously it was a bigger scheme, and the need was different 2 years ago as well, which is obviously why the applicant has come in with a much smaller scheme and adjusted the affordable housing need accordingly. As the case officer pointed out, that appeal inspector didn't consider the impact on character was particularly harmful.
Right.
I think the other appeal decision which was raised was, as I previously explained to Councillor Jewell, was related to conversion of rural building, so not particularly relevant in this case.
Thank you. Right, that'll teach me to ask a question. I've got now 3 more. Right, Councillor Jewell, Councillor Mould and Councillor Tudor. Councillor Jewell first, please.
Yeah, I think we've got to look at this application in the round, really. That photograph we see there is showing it all.
Hang on, is this a question, Councillor Jewell?
No, I don't. Let me.
We haven't gone into debate yet. We're just about to. I'm just about to round up questions.
No, sorry, I apologise.
Councillor Mould, are you trying to?
No, I was the same, Madam Chairman, waiting for open debate. Thank you.
Right, and the same, Councillor Tudor.
No, I have a question for the planning officer.
Right, thank you. Off you go, Councillor Tudor.
Thanks. What's worrying me is if we approve this today, is the knock-on effect and then the chances of a planning applications for the rest of that land now coming forward. Could the planning officer indicate how approval today would affect the rest of that land in terms of planning?
Perhaps I can come in again there, Chair, and
Yes, of course.
that's Councillor Judith's question. I mean, obviously, one of the concerns we do look at is if you have one housing application, does it then create another section of land that would then be formed as rounding off or infill? And it doesn't do that. In my mind, looking at this, any future expansion to the west would also be out into the open countryside and therefore be caught against the similar policies that we're looking at on this scheme, which is the rural exception policies. Obviously, in the future, there might be a neighbourhood plan in place that we can give more weight to, or it might be adopted and give full weight to, and that would obviously change matters again, but that's difficult to foresee. The only other outcome is potentially they could come in for the remainder of the field, but as I say, that would be a rural exception scheme requirement also on that, so you'd have to treat that on its own merits as we would normally suggest.
Okay, if I could come back on that then. So you're saying that if we approved this application today, then any further applications to the west, we have to debate on the same basis of the one we're looking at today. So that's tricky, isn't it?
Yes, but I think that's usual advice that we give to on every time we're asked this question, isn't it?
Yes.
That we'd have to look at those future applications on their own merits and obviously the adopted policy at the time. Be that the same policy as today, or a neighbourhood plan or a revised Cornwall local plan, as it's under review at this stage.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Right, we move into debate and we've got Councillor Jewell starting and then Councillor Mould. Councillor Jewell.
Yeah, following on from Councillor Tudor, I mean, looking into the round, you see what's going to happen. I know Matt says we've got to look at things individually, but you know, this is where the system fails, because they get permission for this reception site and then they'll come along like the same with Laddock, exactly the same. I was there, I knew what was happening. This will come back again, and others. Oh, we look in on the whole. Oh, only it's a small bit of best and most versatile land. So you add those two bits together up, that's a big piece of best and most versatile land. So that's one material consideration which we can put against this for refusal. But the biggest one, I think, is policy 7. And the local parish councillor I believe spoke very well, and she noted a number of paragraphs in that policy 7, 1, 2, 7, 12 and 22, all affecting the character. I mean, the appeal site which was recently done, that was just a silage clamp. This is more, I would say this is more out of character than that site that was dismissed, in my view, but I may be corrected wrong. But I think I've got no hesitation in recommending refusal on those policies I quoted. So I think this is the thin end of the wedge. You can see the red line. This is the corner of the area, and if we nip this in the bud now, the parish council will have their neighbourhood plan when they come in future applications, which will be holding more weight in regards to their boundaries. But as it stands now, I still feel we've got enough in policy 7 to refuse that application.
Are you, Councillor Jewell, you used the word recommend?
That's a proposal as refusal.
It was a proposal, so you're proposing.
Yeah, on policy. Yeah.
On policy, yeah, okay. Can I ask that even if you've indicated to speak, if you wish to second that, can you indicate, please?
I will, Madam Chair, I will second.
Is that Councillor Mould?
It is, thank you.
Right, Councillor Mould, and you're next to speak, which is convenient. So
yes, thank you. And I would support the refusal for the following reasons. It's not rounding off, it is not infill. This is an exception site. We've heard from the parish council that they have, even though their neighbourhood plan is not adopted, they have allocated sites elsewhere. We've heard from the divisional member that they are already having trouble filling allocations elsewhere that have been built. And I agree with Councillor Jewell, this is a thin end of the wedge. You know, exponentially, you're extending these villages into being main or even towns over time with no real need, because it all comes down to housing need. And I'm sorry, I do not agree with the housing numbers. I don't think the need is there. So policy 7, I think all those points. So I'd be happy to second the for refusal.
Thank you. And before I go to the vote, I'll come back to you and to the planning officers, but I have more people indicating they wish to speak, so we'll go ahead with the debate. Councillor Tudor, you're next, and then Councillor Kenny.
Thank you. I'm torn on this because I don't like to refuse affordable housing anywhere, and I've sat on, even in my short time here at the council with my work as well with the Land Trust, I've heard too many parish councillors, Cornwall councillors say that there's no local need, when in fact there is the invisible need, and anybody that thinks we don't need to build more affordable housing in Cornwall must be living under a rock. So I'm torn on this. My worry is the consequences, consequential further development. So I'm still trying to make up my mind. Sorry, I've not added to the debate, but I just want to put that out there in case anybody else had the same view.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny, you're next, please.
Yes, I very much agree with Councillor Tudor. I'm worried that normally I would say fine, affordable housing, it's on the edge of the village, no problem, but because it's quite clearly a chunk of the original application, and the original application, if anybody's wondering, is it takes out that bit where the arrow is, so it goes straight up and then it goes over the field line to sort of finish off opposite the triangle of the existing houses. So it's quite a big extension. To me, this just looks like we'll do it creeping development. We'll get the first bit and then we'll start extending to the rest. Now, I know we are only supposed to be looking at this one, but I think I will support refusal. I think we should bring in the use of the best land and effect on the countryside. I am frustrated that I cannot see the original appeal because I'm hearing quotations from different people who basically conflict a bit. So I would be happy if I could see that appeal, but I'm going to support refusal.
Thank you. Councillor Greenslade, please.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Very succinctly, I'm prepared to